For generations, the people of the outlying imperial world of Korkung 9 have feared what they call the Reaping. Once every 77 of the planet's years, through ancient stone gateways in the planet's equatorial jungles, come a cruel and vicious Xenos that hunt the planet's inhabitants for sport, slaughtering thousands and taking just as many as captives. When the Reaping comes, many choose to end their lives by their own hands rather than face the vile Xenos who revel in the mayhem and murder. Now falling under the rule of the newly appointed Tetrarch, Captain Felix of the Ultramarines, who has examined the records of the world, recognizing the description of the Xenos and their cruel acts as being that of the Drukhari. Identified as a vital world to supply the Imperium with foodstuffs, the Ultramarines assign a small company of Vanguard Marines from the 4th Company, led by Garrod Augustin and librarian Banzo Furious, who aim to wait in ambush and deliver a decapitating blow to the leadership of the Drukhari raids by killing the twisted leader, the Archon, Id Aronoth of the Cabal of the Black Heart. Who will win in this vital battle for this nascent Imperial world? The cruel, twisted race of Xenos called the Drukhari, or the warriors of the Ultramarines' 4th Company? Let's play a combat patrol. Let's take a look first at the Dark Elder, starting with the Archon, who is armed with a splinter pistol, an anti-infantry 3+ assault pistol with a 12-inch range, and a delightful husk blade. And he can be attached to Cabalite warriors, who he's going to be hanging out with. The Cabalite warriors he has is a 10-man squad, armed with, they have got some delightful weapons in there that are gonna really hurt you. The Cyberite is armed with a Cyberite weapon, which is just a generic melee weapon in this game, but as you can see here, it's represented by a delightful whip. It's an anti-infantry 3+ weapon with 3 attacks. It's absolutely lovely. The 7 Cabalite warriors are armed with splinter rifles and a close combat weapon. One is armed with a shredder, and another is armed with a splinter cannon. So they've got mostly a variety of weapons there. The cannon is a nice heavy weapon, and the shredder is an assault sort of flamer torrent weapon. The next unit are your close combat specialists, the Incubi. The Claviex, however you pronounce that, is armed with demiclaves, which have 2 moves, a single blade and a dual blade mode, the dual blade being twin-linked, and the other Incubi are armed with claves. These are wonderful close combat weapons, a -2 AP, 3 attacks, hitting on a 3+ with strength 4. So these are quite nasty. What sets this combat patrol apart from its opponent is its vehicles. It has a raider, a transport which can carry 11 Drukhari infantry models, who's going to be on there, and it's armed with a disintegrator cannon, which is nice 36-inch range, ballistic skill 3, strength 5, -2 AP, and this is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see this. It also has deep strike, so that is quite cool. The final Eldar unit is a Ravager, a heavy support raider, which has Dark Lance, disintegrator cannon, and it's just absolutely delightful. This is a wonderful little ship, and it's going to really cause trouble for the Space Marines. So, speaking of the Space Marines, let's take a look at them. The Space Marines are led by a librarian in Phobos armor who can be attached to an infiltrator squad. He's armed with the Psychic Power Smite, which has both a Witchfire, a very focused, and a very focused mode. So he's got 2 different ways of striking his opponents with his psychic power there. And he is, he's a delightful little unit, and it'll be interesting to see his psychic powers going up against the Dark Eldar, who are very anti-psyker. They really don't like psykers. Accompanying him is a lieutenant in Phobos armor. He's from the Shadow Spear and the Vanguard set. and he has he's got your mastercrafted bolt carbine, lovely little weapon there, and paired combat blades. He can also be attached to an infiltrator squad. The Phobos stuff is quite interesting. It in terms of what it can do, it gets you the infiltrator's core rule, deep strike. This particular model, the lieutenant, has deep strike, which is the infiltrator is attached to does not have, which is a bit annoying. He also gets a 6-inch scout move, but he's probably going to be attached to infiltrators, so it's unlikely he's going to be using most of that stuff. The infiltrator squad is an interesting little squad. It's 10 men. You have them all armed with marksman bolt carbines and bolt pistols, as well as close combat pistols. They have Omni Scramblers, which is cool because that basically means that any units coming in from reserve can't be set up within 12 inches of this unit as opposed to the normal 9 inches. They've also got your infiltrator special rule, and they can be split into patrol squads containing 5 models each, which gives us the ability to attach a character to each of those patrol squads, as it were. So, yeah. And finally, an old favourite of mine, the Suppressors, a lovely little heavy support squad who can, who basically have the ability to sort of jump around the battlefield. They can move up to 12 inches and use their heavy accelerator autocannon, which have a nice 48-inch range, -1 AP, hitting on 4s with strength 8. So these can do some interesting damage, and these will probably be what I'm using to get through those vehicles there. I actually really love this unit and hope one day we get a multi-part kit, because they're lots of fun to play with. So with that said, let's see how they are going to deploy, what the mission will be, and what we're going to be doing. In terms of table playout, this is what we're playing with. I've had a comment on my previous report. It seemed that my terrain seemed a bit unequal, and I suppose that's more because I'm going for a narrative look and feel to the game, but I may be looking at doing things differently next time round and using some more equal layouts. But we'll see how it goes and wait for the feedback. So anyway, we're going to be playing Architect Recovery. So as you can see, there's an objective in the middle, one in each deployment zone, and an additional one in No Man's Land, which is it's an interesting game, and hopefully it'll prove fun. In the roll-off, who was going to be Defender and Attacker, the Space Marines won and chose to become the Attacker. So the Dark Eldar, that is, will be the Drukhari, I should say now. Yeah, got to remember these new names. Will be deploying first. The Drukhari player has gone for, how shall we say, a risky strategy by putting the Warriors, the Archon, in the Raider and putting that into Deep Strike, and the Ravager also into Deep Strike. So the only unit they're going to deploy in deployment phase is the Incubi, which they are doing here. So that could be a very, very risky. At this point now, the Space Marines are going to deploy all of their units, starting here with this unit of infiltrators and a Phobos Librarian up towards the top of their deployment zone on the left-hand side of the table. So that's a fairly interesting one. They're going to be obviously aiming for the objective there. They then placed their second unit, which is 5 more infiltrators with the the lieutenant in Phobos armor, and they are on their objective in their deployment zone. So let's see what comes of that. And the final deployment is the suppressors, sort of between the two units. Obviously, I think the aim is they're going to be pushing up and they're going to try and wipe out those incubi. So let's see what comes on. In terms of rolling to see who goes first, for the Eldar, Dark Eldar, thankfully it was them. Considering they've only got 1 unit on the board, I think they need that advantage. As their only move of the first turn, the Incubi move into the cover of some ruins in the hope that this will help them weather the inevitable firestorm that will no doubt come from the Marines. And that ends their turn 1. The Space Marine player has a little bit more to do. So the first thing they do is they move the Infiltrators squad with the Phobos Librarian towards the objective in No Man's Land, just sort of towards their side at the top there. The suppressors, however, waste no time and make an aggressive move forward on top of some ruins to help them get a bead on the incubi to try and wipe that squad out and perhaps, you never know, win the game in round 1. Who knows? The suppressors open fire upon the incubi. They have a total of 9 dice, of which 5 hit on a 4, which is what they need. And of those, all 5 cause wounds against the incubi, given that the strength of the accelerator autocannon, say that while drunk, very fast, is 8, and the toughness of an incubi is only 3, so yeah, that's wounding on 2s. Now, I was somewhat worried for the incubi, however, they actually managed to weather that. The autocannons have a -1 on their armor penetration, but that's negated by the cover that the incubi are in, so the incubi are making 3+ saves, and they save 4 of them, so only 1 dies to the autocannon fire. As we move into the Dark Eldar's second turn, they don't score anything. They were not near any objectives, so they didn't score. However, the incubi move forward towards the middle of the board, so next turn hopefully they'll score, if they're still there. The Dark Eldar player then decides to, Drukhari. You know what? I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm still used to calling them Dark Eldar, but they are Drukhari, obviously. Decides to play a bit aggressively and brings a Ravager down right on top of an objective. The objective there in No Man's Land on his sort of side. And, yeah. And they follow that right up with the Raider coming down close to another objective. In the shooting phase, he then opens fire with all weapons against the suppressors, using his Dark Lances first, scoring 2 hits that both cause wounds. However, only one of the suppressors is killed, as they're able to use the benefit of cover to make a save roll of 5 for one of them. Next up, the Ravager uses its disintegration cannon and scores all 3 hits with 2 wounds. Sadly for the Space Marine player, this is enough to wipe out all of the remaining 2 suppressors, and they both perish, wiping out that unit. It's the Raiders' turn next, and the embarked warriors decide to open fire using the firing deck rule against the infiltrators with the librarians. They fire 7 times. They fire 7. They fire 14 times actually with their splinter rifles, causing 14 wounds due to the infantry, the anti-infantry 3+ rule, which basically means any roll of a 3+ is a critical, so it goes straight through to an automatic wound. Though it didn't matter all that much, as it only caused a single wound on the infiltrators there. However, the warriors have another trick up their crew, and they fire their splinter cannon, scoring 2 critical wounds, again due to the anti-infantry 3+. And this kills the wounded infiltrator there. The Raider then uses its inbuilt disintegrator cannon, scoring all 3 hits, but only wounding once. But that's enough to kill another infiltrator, leaving that squad on 3 Marines and just the librarian there. At the beginning of the Marines' second turn, they score immediately 10 victory points because they control 2 objectives, one with each infiltrator squad on them. They can't score their secondary objective of reconnaissance force, as the Drukhari control more objectives in No Man's Land. So the first thing they do is the infiltrators with the lieutenant move away from the objective, but they do remain in control thanks to the lieutenant's autochoral resonators. The other infiltrator squad just sort of moves slightly around the objective there, just to give themselves a better shot at a target they might be wanting to attack. The infiltrators with the lieutenant shoot the incubi with their marksman bolt carbines, hitting them 7 times and scoring a total of 5 wounds. But miraculously, the incubi weather the infiltrators' weapons without losing any of their number. The lieutenant then has his mastercrafted bolt carbine, hitting with both shots, causing 2 wounds, but again, the incubi managed to save both. This save rules are really on fire in this game. The librarian then uses a focus smite attack on the raider, hitting with 2 mind bullets, one of which scores a wound, and the raider loses a hull point in that attack. The remaining 3 infiltrators then fire with their marksman bolt carbines, scoring 3 hits, but do no damage whatsoever to the raider. At the start of turn 3, the Drukhari start by scoring 3 objective markers, giving them 15 victory points at the start of turn 3 to the Space Marines 10. The mission rules cause the defenders, in this case the Drukhari, to randomly select an objective marker in no man's land as objective Gamma, which will be removed at the start of turn 3, and using a dice to select it, the objective marker in the middle is objective Gamma and will disappear at the start of turn 4. The incubi now move towards the infiltrators, the intention being to flay their flesh from their bones. The Archeon and his warriors disembark from the raider to clamber on top of this bit of scenery to secure that objective marker. And this allows the raider to move up the board towards the objective controlled by the Marines with the librarian, with the intention of taking that from them. The Ravager stays where it is and opens fires on the infiltrators, scoring 1 hit and 1 wound with its Dark Lance. And this manages to kill one of that squad's infiltrators. The Disintegration Cannon fires next and scores a single hit, which fails to wound any of the Marines. Going back to the Warriors, they then fire their Splinter Rifles at the other infiltrator squad, hitting them 9 times, which all wound. And one of the infiltrators is killed by those splinter rounds. We're then firing the Splinter Cannon. It's hit the Marines twice, both of which wound, with critical wounds. Now, quick note, we did realise that we did get the anti-infantry rule wrong in the last round. It's the first time we've been playing with the Dark Eldar, and for some reason we got it in our head. You know, reading the rule for the first time, we thought, oh right, when you hit on a 3+, that wound's automatically critical. But no, it's it's when you're wounding, it hits on a 3+, so the strength to toughness doesn't matter, it's just you're looking for the 3+s. So we got it wrong in that round, we got it right this time. Anyway, that Splinter Cannon scores, just basically wounds a Marine. That's it. Though when we double checked it later, it actually should have just killed the Marine, so we got a few rules wrong in this game, I'm afraid. The Raider then opens fire with its Disintegration Cannon, hits twice, causes a single wound, which kills the injured Marine, who should have died anyway, so should have been 2 Marines that were dead, but he's doing badly. We'll give him we'll let that go, shall we? The Incubi then charge the infiltrators, make it in with a roll of 11. Now, me and my mates were always notoriously bad at remembering we have stratagems, we can use them, we should use them, and, well, the Overwatch stratagem was used here, which was good. They hit the Incubi once, which wounded it, but the Incubi, as predictably in this game, managed to make the save. The Incubi then attack first with the Claves, hitting the Marines 6 times and causing 5 wounds. And sadly, this wipes out all the infiltrators, leaving it just the lieutenant to face the Clavevex. I've probably butchered that name, haven't I? I have no idea. The Clavevex then attacks with his Demi-Blade as a single blade, scoring 2 hits, but neither of which actually managed to score a wound. But the lieutenant, he's going to hit back now. He's got his paired combat blades, scoring 4 hits, of which 3 cause wounds. And he manages to kill one of the Incubi, leaving the Incubi with 3 guys there and him with just the 1. And that ends the Drukhari player's turn. As we move into the Marines' turn 3, They start by scoring 10 points for the 2 objectives they control, remembering that the objective in the lower left is sticky because of the lieutenant's equipment. So that gives them 10. Now, because they control an objective in no man's land and the same or more than the Drukhari, they also score 2 more victory points for their reconnaissance in force secondary objective, which means they are now on 22 victory points to the Drukhari's 15. The infiltrators and librarians stay still and open fire on the raider, first with a marksman bolt carbines, scoring both hits but doing absolutely no wounds whatsoever. The librarian then uses a focused smite attack to hit the raider with 3 mind bullets, doing 2 wounds. The raider fails to save either and ends up suffering 5 hull points damage as a result. The Marines then charge the raider, making it in on a roll of 6. The librarian then strikes the raider with his foresword, hitting it 4 times, scoring just a single wound, however. The raider fails to save, takes 2 more wounds. The lone infiltrator then attacks using his close combat weapon, hitting twice but making no damage whatsoever. The lieutenant then attacks the incubi with his paired combat blades, hitting with all 5 attacks and wounding the incubi a total of 4 times. And this manages to kill one of the incubi, leaving the incubi with just a single incubi and the Clavivex. The incubi get to hit back now, first with the single incubi's claves, hitting the lieutenant twice and wounding him with both of those, so he takes 2 wounds in total. He saves one of those wounds, but the other wounds him and takes 2 of his 4 wounds away. The Clavivex attacks next with his single blade, hitting all 3 times, causing 2 wounds in total, which is enough to finish off the lieutenant and allowing the incubi to consolidate. And this leaves the Marines in a very precarious position, although they are now leading on victory points at the end of turn 3, 22 to 15. They only have 2 models left on the board, a single infiltrator and a Phobos librarian. At the start of turn 4, the Gamma objective is removed and the Drukhari score 10 victory points to put them on 25 to the Space Marines 22. This objective is randomly selected as Beta and will disappear in the 5th round. The Raider then makes a fallback move towards the Marines' deployment zone, getting away from the Marines and leaving them open to be fired upon. The Ravager then repositions itself slightly to make firing on the remaining Marines a lot easier. The Incubi move towards the objective marker in the Marines' deployment zone, not necessarily because they can score this, they literally cannot score it in turn 5 if the game gets that far, but it's more because they have a secondary objective in this game called Rapturous Raiders, which will get them some more victory points for being in the enemy's deployment zone. The Ravager then opens fire on the Marines with Dark Lancers, hitting with both shots and wounding them with both shots. Is all I hear from the Marine player as he rolls his save dice and doesn't make either of them. And sadly, his entire Marine force is wiped out, meaning that the Drukhari have won the battle. However, as mentioned previously, they do have their Rapturous Raiders, which means that because they've gotten a Drukhari infantry unit into the Marines' deployment zone, they score an extra 4 victory points at the end of that turn, meaning they win 29 to 22 for the game. Obviously, if we'd continued going, such as in a sort of competitive environment to continue the points, they would have won by a lot more. But we're happy to end that there with the Drukhari winning with a tabling and 29 victory points to 22. Well, that was a result that kind of probably should have expected. Those vehicles are kind of tough, and losing these suppressors in turn 2 quite early on was a bit difficult one. Now, we did have some interesting rules quirks with this because we're still getting familiar with these armies. It's my first time using the Dark Eldar in any kind of competitive, actual gameplay setting. So yeah, I got a few of the rules wrong. We both got a few of the rules. It's fine. We're not playing for narrative. That anti-infantry one, I was just reading through it. I was like, oh, okay, that's the way it works. And then read it again. It was like, oh no, I got it wrong. But it happens. We also had a bit of a thing. We know in the main game there is a limit on how many units can be put into reserve, but there doesn't seem to be a limit in combat patrol. So when I put both my vehicles into reserve for deep striking, maybe that was a bit too much, but who knows? Anyway, so we hope you've enjoyed the game. If you have, if you've enjoyed this, like that smash button. Leave a comment, dislike it if you didn't like it, and tell us why. All the usual YouTuber farming for engagement things, and I think that's been great. And I think hopefully we're going to be back next month. It's going to be Tau, just don't know who they're going to be facing. Could be Admech, just depends what I pull out, but it will be Tau. That much is for sure. And we've got a few more combat patrols on the production line. Demons are almost ready. They just need one unit finishing off. Dark Angels, well, still in production, but yeah, hopefully soon we'll have some more combat patrols for you. And we're looking forward to the new Dark Angels combat patrol. Looks really exciting. Yeah, so we will be back next month with another combat patrol. Thank you for tuning in. Keep rolling those dice.